This episode is about opportunity, but this episode is also about getting the basics right. We have a ton of opportunity ahead of us at CardsHQ right now, and today we're going to break down what a lot of that opportunity looks like and what we learned and took away from our last strategy meeting that our leadership team had. But we're also going to talk about the importance of getting the basics right. We got a big reminder of that over the course of the last few days about things that we could be doing better in our store, areas where we are not performing at the levels that we want to perform. And until you get those basics right, it's really hard to think about the future. So we got to do better at both. Today, we're going to break that all down. And Carter, one of my co-owners here at CardsHQ, of course, you know him from the show many times before. He is going to be joining me for this conversation. So let's get started. This episode is brought to you by Arena Club. Arena Club is an innovative platform featuring grading and authentication, vaulting, and digital pack openings. Be sure to check out the amazing items up for auction right now at Arena Club. From rare cards to top-tier collectibles, there's something for you at Arena Club. Download the Arena Club app today by searching Arena Club in the App Store on your phone, and then use promo code SCI for 10% off your first purchase of cards at Arena Club. Carter, welcome back to the show.
What's going on, Geoff?
Ryan is off buying currently. He has been extremely busy trying to keep our showcases filled. So today I got you. I dragged you in here to do the show with me and for this chat. And it's good timing to be talking about this. We're going to talk about customer service, an area where we are working to get better. And we're going to talk about future opportunity and expansion. And as we sit here in the middle of November and we look at the calendar, the holiday shopping season is right around the corner. And so this seems like the right opportunity to really be thinking about, customer service and gearing up for holiday shopping and then the opportunities that 2025 could bring. We haven't been through a holiday season before at CardsHQ. We opened February 1st of this year. This will be our first holiday season. What are you expecting?
I'm expecting to be really busy. I think we're going to see a lot of people maybe traveling through down to Florida. I think we're going to get a lot of first-time customers. So I think it's a great opportunity for us to make a first impact, first impression on a lot of new people, exposed to our brand.
And while we don't know exactly what the sales mix is going to look like, because we've never been through this before, what do you think? What do you think is going to be hot? What do you think people are going to be after for the holidays?
It's got to be boxes. I mean, when I think of holidays, every year for Christmas, I ask for boxes. I want to Repacks, right? I think it's boxes. I think it's supplies. I think maybe it's merchandise. Maybe more team-specific cards. I can see a lot of our Braves cards selling. I think that's probably, going to be really hot locally. But I think boxes primarily. I think that's what people are going to be after.
We've added, for the first time to the shop, a little bit of memorabilia. Mm-hmm. We're not going to do much memorabilia. Like we're CardsHQ, not Collectibles HQ or Memorabilia HQ. So we're focused like 99% on cards, but we did decide for the holidays, maybe some people will want to pick up some memorabilia as little stocking stuffers, so some autographed baseballs, things like that. We're starting to add some of those into the shop right now. Yeah,
and we're going to ramp that up over the next 60 days for sure. And as you said, it won't be a lot. I think it'll be more than 1% eventually of our business, but I think it's exciting. I think some people are actually going to be excited that we're exposed to it at some point because we've been literally 100% cards, and we get emails and phone calls pretty frequently like, hey, do you have signed baseballs? Hey, do you do signed bats or signed jerseys? And the answer's always been flat out no, and so it is exciting now that we can have a different answer and approach to that.
Yeah, it will be fun. We'll see how that develops out, and we'll see this holiday season. I'm excited to see what TCG sales look like. I think that our TCG business has been brisk. We've got a lot of people coming in the shop to buy, Pokemon and Lorcana and One Piece and Magic are, kind of our big sellers. The new Star Wars game has been a good seller as well. So I'm curious with, the Christmas upcoming, Hanukkah upcoming, if we get a lot of moms buying or dads buying, gifts for kids, stocking stuffers. And do we see a lot of that on the TCG side of the store? My guess is yes. So I think TCG boxes are going to be a big seller. but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, and tying back into we've really ramped up TCG events recently. So we've acquired a lot of new customers that have never heard of us through the TCG play space here locally in Atlanta. So I do anticipate TCG actually growing even further here over the next couple months.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that a little bit more, and just to kind of clue the audience in. So we hired a full-time person to be in charge of trading card game tournaments for CardsHQ. He started less than 2 months ago, I think, around 2 months ago, started planning out those first events. And we've been doing them now for a little over a month and a half. And the turnout's been increasing. We now are doing like 3 nights a week. We're doing different, whether it's, I know we have had some nice Star Wars ones. Mm-hmm. We got a big Magic one. We got another big Magic one upcoming. We've been doing some other TCGs as well. And we've had 40, 50 people come in for some of these events. So it definitely seems to be a building part of what we're doing here at the shop.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just specifically our Sunday One Piece tournament, the first one we hosted exactly 4 weeks ago. The first one we had 3 people show up to. Last week we had 26, and this week we had 33 in a 4-week period. So that's how much growth that we're seeing in a short amount of time. So it makes the store a little overwhelming at times when we got multiple tournaments going on. On Saturday last week, we did have over 50 people across multiple tournaments playing. It fills up our store. It fills up our tables. It really adds an atmosphere to the shop. It's really exciting to see.
Yeah. So speaking of it being a little bit overwhelming, that ties into one of the topics that I wanted to talk about today, which is getting really good at the basics. And both of us have kind of observed on and off over the last few months that our retail staff is busy. And as a result of them being busy, they aren't always as focused on the customer experience as what we would like to see. We've had our retail staff doing things like barcoding cards that need to get into the showcases, for example. And there's a lot of cards that transact here. So there's a lot of cards that need to be barcoded to get into the showcases. But sometimes what happens is a customer will walk in the door and the retail staff will be kind of busy. They don't say anything to the customer when they walk in. And then sometimes that customer can kind of be in the aisles for some time, 10 or 20 minutes, and maybe nobody has come over to them to check on them to see if they need any help. And we've received a handful of either reviews or people reaching out saying, hey, I wanted to, let you know, I didn't have the greatest experience, that loved the build out of the store, loved the selection, really wish that I'd gotten a little more attention as a customer. Now, these folks say, I can go up to the counter and ask, and then somebody will come help me, but I wish that someone would have greeted me. I wish that someone would have wandered by in the aisle and asked me to help. And so we've gotten kind of a handful of these feedback points over the last couple of months. And I know that's an area we just had a conversation about it a few days ago. And we kind of circled this as like, okay, we're getting into holiday shopping. This seems like a weak point for the shop right now. It could get worse in the holidays. If our retail team's busy, if they're distracted with other duties that we've given them, and we got a lot of shoppers in the shop, and if they're not giving those shoppers a good experience, that could be bad for us. That could be a challenge. And we strive to provide this Chick-fil-A-like, really kind of elevated experience. We're not able to consistently do that right now. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think the mindset needs to change through the sense. I think we all know that we serve probably most customers well. Obviously, our store is very successful. We've been talking about that ever since we've opened. But I think our mindset needs to really shift to we want to take care of all customers, every single one, 100% of one, to the best of our ability. And I think with the task that we've laid on the retail team, they just haven't been able to do that, like you mentioned. And, something that we can go back to the beginning is, we take inventory to a whole new level than any other card shop in the nation. How we log cards, how we barcode them, how we organize them. Every graded card in our showcase is available on our website. That adds complications. So that means that we have to make sure that we can locate every card right when it's ordered, because or else we can have cross-order issues. So there's a lot of factors in play here, but I think the main goal in the short term is we got to hire people. We got to add some team members to take some tasks off our retail team for them. They can be focused on service, because we really want the customers to come in here, feel welcome, feel like they're being helped. And obviously, there's a lot of educational aspects in the card world. There's so much to know, and we have a lot of good team members that are well educated, but we got to put them in conversation moments with these customers to educate them as well.
Yeah. And it is a little hard to hire too because of that, right? So we want to hire team members who know cards well enough to be able to answer customers' questions. And you get a lot of different questions.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure a lot of people listening to this podcast have had the experience of, we'll probably have a lot of people listening who have been into cards for some time, but they probably have the experience of, getting friends into cards or that kind of thing. And just the multitude and variety of questions. Cards are complicated. They're very complicated.
It very is.
You have to know a lot. And so, to try to hire for those roles is challenging. So at times we can't maybe hire quite as quickly as we'd like. We have been getting better at hiring. I know we've been doing a lot of promotion of the jobs. You've been doing a lot of interviewing. And so getting some more people added to the team will certainly help. And then also I think streamlining the duties of what the retail team is doing. We do have a decent amount on their plates right now. Like there's a lot that they're kind of focused on helping with. They're working hard. And I say all of this, I'm sharing this with the audience, not to say that anybody on our team is not working hard or not doing a good job. I think we've got a really good team. I think we've got a really good culture. I just think that our team has multiple responsibilities. And when they're focused on one thing, it's sometimes easy for them to not be as proactive as they may need to be with something else. And that something else may be greeting the customer who just walked in the front door, or helping or going around proactively to see if, a customer in a particular aisle needs help. And so when they have a to-do list of a bunch of things to do, that extra little layer of customer care is something that is easily ignored while they focus on doing their other duties. And we want to make sure that's not ignored anymore, right? And it's not in all cases. I mean, they definitely do a good job of it a lot of the time, but we want them to do a good job of it 100% of the time. And we want every customer, as you said, every customer, not just most customers, but every customer who walks in the store to have a warm greeting, to be greeted and to be greeted in the aisles as well. And, asked if we can help them, ask if there's any questions that can be answered, and really have our retail team serve as a resource and guide for those customers to really help elevate the in-store experience.
Yeah, exactly. And, I think another big factor of this is, we've been saying this on multiple shows here now, our retail store itself has exceeded expectations by a lot than what we initially planned in our business plan. And that's in factor, we haven't done some of the things that we wanted to, like live selling from the aisles, which I know maybe we'll talk about here soon. But because of that, I think our retail team has just been busier than we anticipated, and doing more than we anticipated. And we've gotten them help. Obviously, we've grown the inventory team, and that's taken some tasks on from off of them from the beginning. But there's still too much on their plate, and I think we need to be focused on service, like you talked about, and just overall store presentation.
Yeah,
I think if we can focus on those two things inside the retail team, I think the customer experience is going to be better looking at product, and they're going to be better served that way too.
Yeah, and we'll get there.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing with you're absolutely right that when we first did the business plan for this store, we did not anticipate that retail traffic or sales would be anywhere close to what it has turned out to be. And we're very fortunate in that regard. We have far exceeded double where we thought our retail sales would be. I mean, I think it's like triple where we thought our retail sales would be when we first did the business plan. We thought a lot of our sales were going to come from live selling in our website, which we have a lot of sales from live selling in our website, but we thought that retail was going to be overall a minority percentage of our business. And it's turned out to be a big piece of the business, a lot more significant than we thought, which is wonderful. But it means we got to staff differently. We got a little bit of a different approach. There's more to the retail side and the customer service side than we were originally anticipating. So it's a lesson learned, and I'm appreciative for the people who gave us, feedback on their experiences so that we can get better in that area. I think, with business in general, one of the things in all kinds of different businesses that I've been involved in that I have learned to be true is that whatever you think your plan is going into the business, you learn week 1, week 2, week 4, week 12, week 36, that things are a lot different than what you envisioned. And I mean, it's like Mike Tyson saying, like, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. I mean, that's how running a business is.
Literally.
It literally is that, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally that. So you can do all the planning you want, but then once you actually get into the ring and you start opening the doors to customers, of any type of business, a retail store, an online business, e-commerce, app, doesn't matter. Any type of business, service, you let those customers in the door virtually or literally, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, now like this is a little different than what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it's a lot different. Honestly, I feel that way about the in-store live selling from the aisles. I feel like we just, in the current state of our business, I feel like I'm just getting punched in the mouth saying, no, you can't do that right now. Yeah. So it's a literal sense for sure.
Yeah, and we'll get to that. But the best businesses, the ones that are ultimately successful, are the ones that are really adapt and they're agile. And when they're presented with those types of learnings, that they take advantage of that and they're like, okay, this is not quite how I thought it would be, but now we're going to be agile and we're going to adapt to this new reality. I think so much about the success of business is not the planning up front. It's like 99% of the success is your ability to adapt and be agile once you're in the mix of it, which I think the classic business advice that I like to give is like, if you have an idea and you're thinking about like starting something in your life, just do it. Because if you spend a lot of time pontificating about your idea and whiteboarding your idea and thinking about all this stuff, it's like, that's all great. But ultimately all that time is just holding you back from actually starting the idea. And what you're going to find out is when you actually do the thing, a lot of that whiteboarding is going to kind of be like, well, you know what, that actually isn't actually how it played out. It's that, so just do it. Right. And so that's, and you learn so much and then you have to adapt. And that's what we're trying to do right now with the whole retail experience. Okay. I want to get into talking about opportunity because the last time we did a CardsHQ Geoff Wilson show, you, Ryan, and I talked about the fact that we were about to have a strategy meeting and we were going to go into that strategy meeting and we were going to discuss a whole bunch of ideas for future expansion. Were you on that one or was that one just Ryan?
No, I was on it.
Yeah, you were on that one as well, right? So that was right before we did the strategy meeting that we had back in October. And there were some people in the comments that were like, oh, I want to hear the results of the strategy meeting. So
some people wanted it live streamed.
Some people wanted us to live stream the strategy meeting, which would have been pretty fun. So I thought we would break down a little bit what the ideas were that we considered and then the approach we took to scorecarding the ideas and ultimately deciding which ideas we were going to move forward with. Now, we're not going to reveal to the audience today the exact ideas that we are moving forward with. We're going to tell everyone the ideas, but we're not going to tell them which ones we made the final decision on because we have some stuff in the works with a couple of these ideas right now. We're already starting to make progress on them, and we want to wait until we're a little bit further along, and then we'll talk about them more and make announcements and the whole thing, right? But I think it's noteworthy to talk generally about all the different ideas we considered and then also the process we went through to determine what were the ideas that we're actually pursuing right now. Hopefully that offers some value to folks who are out there listening, maybe thinking about their own ideas of either improvements they want to make to their business or businesses they want to start or, whatever that might look like in their own lives. So here's the list of ideas. I'm going to go through. So there were 9 different ideas for expanding CardsHQ in some fashion or form that you, Ryan, and I came up with. And all of these ideas were ones that we kind of kicked around over the course of the last few months. Some were more recent. Some are ones that we thought about since even before we originally opened the store. And we finally said, okay, let's put these all on a whiteboard and let's list out all of our ideas and talk through all of our ideas. And then these were the 9 that we felt were the most kind of crystallized, had the best opportunity. So let me run through these. I want to hear a few high-level thoughts from you on each of these, and then we'll kind of talk about the scoring process. So the first was expanding live selling and breaking. We're doing a lot of live selling and breaking. We see the opportunity of expanding that quite a bit more. We spent a lot of time talking about this. What are your high-level thoughts on this?
Well, I think in the last podcast, I think you asked, what was something that we really want to see expanded heavily. And I was hoping for breaking and live selling. I oversee that department. I think we're seeing a lot of success in there. Last month in October, we had a record month in revenue. I'm expecting another record month this month in November. So we're seeing organic, natural growth in that area. And I think it's a great opportunity for us. to continue to grow it. We still have, 2 cabanas almost still to fill out fully. There's a lot that we can do, expand to more platforms. Right now we're only on Whatnot. We could get into TCG.
Yeah.
We're not too heavily into that. We have Allie that dabbles in that and does really well with it, but we're not into it in a specific sense. I do think, for us to go that route, we're going to need someone with a lot of good experience. Just my background's primarily sports. I have confidence I can oversee it, but I think someone's really got to be invested fully in TCG to help us, get that off the ground. But it's something that I think we should definitely get into at some point. But overall, I think breaking and live selling is a very strong candidate for us to continue to grow either, at a more aggressive rate or just organically like we have been.
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited to see what we can do there for sure. And so that's something we spent time talking about. That was one of the ideas we had on the board. Where does that rank in terms of opportunity level against some of these others? Well, let's talk about some of the others, right? The next one that we talked about was the concept of live selling from the aisles. You brought this up before. This is nothing new. I've talked about this on this show. And before we ever opened CardsHQ, I talked about how I wanted to be able to live sell from the aisles. But it hasn't been something that we've really been able to do yet. There have been some big challenges that we still haven't fully been able to overcome.
Yeah, this is kind of a difficult topic to talk about because I think before we opened, all the way back to last October when we did that video, that launch video announcing the store, it was something that all 3 of us were very passionate and excited about. We felt like we could do it, but some things did not, or went the other way, like the retail store doing a lot better than we anticipated. We just did not anticipate the foot traffic. We didn't anticipate the amount of cards selling from an in-store footprint. There's just a lot of factors that we learned going through the process. One, we need enough cards. We need to make sure that we have cards for our in-store customers so then they continue to come back. And then 2, there's a margin aspect to this. The fees that, some of these platforms charge. It's difficult when a card can sell pretty quickly in our store or on our website to give up a percentage of, of our revenue or of our profit to a platform where we're confident we can sell it within a similar amount of time span.
Yeah. So challenges for sure to getting it off the ground. I still really want to do it sometime.
Yeah, no, for sure. And we're going to continue to think on it, whether it's a different section or whether it's something we do exclusively online and it's a separate inventory, who knows, but it's something we got to do. And, people probably forget this, honestly, but we built our showcases specifically for that. Yes, I think the cards display a lot better in our store with the way that we have them, instead of more of the flat counter showcases, but they were built more specifically for live selling in the aisles. The cards are properly displayed for that reason. We've shown that off sometimes on your YouTube trade night live streams, or sometimes in YouTube videos. I know Teapot does some videos through the aisles on the Market Movers channels. The cards look great on camera going through the aisles. So we're built for it. It's just a matter of execution at some point when we can get there.
Yeah, I agree. Well, stay tuned, everybody, for that, because at some point there will be some iteration of this put into place, but there are things that we are still working to try to figure out on that. Let's talk about inventory. One thing that we discussed was, since our own inventory is always constrained because we sell a lot of stuff, our website is an area where if we had more inventory, we could sell a lot more, because the website CardsHQ.com is getting a lot of traffic. There's a lot of people who go on there to search to buy cards, but we often don't have the card that they're looking for because maybe it had just sold, or maybe we didn't get it in that week or the prior week when we went to go to a card show and bought out collections. And so there was a concept about, could we expand the inventory on our website by partnering with one or more other dealers or card shops and listing their inventory on our website to essentially expand our website by having other sellers' inventory on it as well.
Yeah, I think all 3 of us thought this was a very intriguing idea. It could be a lot of benefit for both sides, for us and dealers involved. There's challenges as well, but I think the inventory side of it, to get more cards on the website, could be exciting. It could provide a lot more for our customer base. I think there's a lot of demand on our website. I think we have people refreshing on our website pretty frequently. Our cards sell pretty quickly on our website. I think people have the urge to buy more on our website. I think the challenges that we discussed was around price points. We pride ourselves here on pricing. And so we got to align ourselves with dealers that would price fairly alongside with us. The other aspect is maybe diluting our own inventory, because it would probably be mixed with our own, and maybe some of the other cards would sell, or maybe it'd be harder to find our cards that were priced fairly on the website. And then there's a shipping concern, obviously, as well. We pride ourselves on our shipping team. Our shipping team's incredible. We get a lot of packages out within 24 hours. Across our industry, that's really fast. A lot of people get stuff out within 2 or 3 days. And so if we have issues with, a dealer shipping slowly or something not being packaged correctly, that reflects on us. If we go this route, we got to make sure we partner with the right people around pricing and people that are going to represent us in the right way.
Mm. Yeah. So stuff to figure out there for sure. Definite opportunity, lot to figure out. Repacks. They've been super popular. A lot of companies are doing repacks. There is opportunity for sure, I think, in the repack business, but with a lot of companies already doing repacks, if we were to approach it, I think we would really have to be unique and different and better in our approach. So it's not as simple as just taking some slabs and tossing them in mystery boxes. It's actually trying to architect a repack product in a way that actually adds more value to the customer than what anybody else is currently doing. That's a higher bar to have to leap over if we're going to pursue repacks as a business idea.
Yeah, and it's something that we talked about before opening, but that conversation around, there's a lot of people doing it and they're doing it successfully. And so the challenge is how do we do it differently? And how do we do it in a way that does add more value to the customer? So there's a lot that we've discussed. There's a lot that hopefully maybe we get to at some point. But repacks is an exciting thing. I think it's one of the hottest things in our industry right now. I love how it could tie into breaking. I love how it could tie into retail stores. And it could tie into our website. So this is something that could tie into all our customers across all bases, which some things are just more related to online or just retail store. So it's an exciting thing, but I think standing out and being different, adding the greater value, however we can do that, is going to be exciting once we get to that.
And speaking of repacks, another business concept that was kind of an expansion of that almost that we talked about was the idea of, can we do repack openings in a digital format and an online format to reach a wider audience? And this would be maybe live streaming a breaker who can open a repack on demand. So maybe there's a scenario where you could come to our website and buy a repack and then somebody can open it live for you on a video feed on our website right away or something of that nature, right? To kind of expand that out. That was something else we talked about too. We also talked about the concept of a monthly subscription service. This, I think, is interesting. Obviously, a lot of businesses have a goal of building recurring revenue. And beyond just that being a financial goal, which would be nice, we saw this as something that could be really fun for our customers. And we don't know exactly what shape or form this could take yet, but we kicked around ideas like a card of the month or a pack of the month or a supply package of the month or, even CardsHQ or sports card merchandise of the month or something like that. Like, we kicked around some different ideas of what would people like to maybe receive on a monthly basis. There is some complication there. Price point being one. If you're asking somebody to subscribe for a year to get monthly shipments, there's some price sensitivity. Can you still give them enough value though for them to be really excited about what they're getting every month, enough variety, yet maintaining a value level, do it for the right price point? So we don't have all the answers here yet, but it was a concept that I think was intriguing.
Yeah, and it's probably one of the more ones that are a little bit easier to do. It is kind of more of a small business inside of a business. It's something that takes development for sure, and it takes almost, depending on how how high we can scale that, it may take a whole separate team to even manage that potentially too as well. So it's very interesting, and I think it could be very successful. I think the one thing we did discuss, I don't think there's many people in our space currently doing that in the sports card industry. So, which if you look at other industries, there's often a lot of different subscription type companies out there. So that's potential for sure.
Yeah, something to look into. We spent a lot of time talking about TCG and expanding TCG. And this was kind of almost just a more general category. We didn't know exactly what shape it would take, but there were concepts around, do we build audience for TCG? Do we push into more TCG events, which we've already been, obviously doing some of in our store? Do we get into breaking and live selling with TCG? Could we sell from the aisles with TCG? So just a more generalized concept, but like the idea of expanding TCG in general is something that we have and will continue to put a lot of thought into.
Yeah, and I'll give credit to Ryan on this one. Ryan talks a lot about how he goes to shows, and if we go to a sports card show, we're always known. Like, people know who we are. But when we go to TCG shows like Collecticon, there's people asking, oh, where are you from? Where's your shop based out of? And, so that just proves the room that we have to grow in the TCG space, to reach more customers. We're already reaching a lot more customers here locally. We spoke about some of the numbers that we're already growing within a month and a half here with our TCG events. And I want people to realize, like, there's almost two sides of TCG. There's the play community and there's the collecting community. And we've built a decent collecting community here locally, but now we're getting into that play community, locally. So hopefully we can grow outside of Atlanta and grow that more exposure. I think we have the capabilities to do that. We just got to push forward that effort.
The last two ideas that we discussed and scored, bigger ideas. One was a card show. Do we do our own CardsHQ card show? And there are some good card shows in Atlanta. Collecticon, which is a big TCG show, was just recently in Atlanta. It's coming back to Atlanta in 2025. You've got Culture Collision, which has happened several times in Atlanta. It's happening again in 2025. And so if we were to do something in the card show realm, I think it'd have to be something kind of unique. It's something different. But there's opportunity. This one, we discussed this one. This one didn't score. This one scored, I think, on the lower end of things we talked about, because it is almost a totally different kind of business event venture to get into. But it was an interesting concept to kick around and just to kind of, think about and hypothesize about how you would, maybe run a unique special card show.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this. I think we know how to put on events inside our four walls. So I think we do a really good job of that. And I think caring about an experience from an event perspective, I think it could be executed to an extent. But I think going back to inside our four walls, we're trying to focus here and try to improve things like retail or improve, breaking, trying to focus on what we can control here at our physical store first, and then looking at those opportunities later down the line may be the best move.
And then the final one was the biggest one of all, and that was opening up additional CardsHQ retail locations in other cities. And this is something that I would like to say is probably inevitable that we will do at some point in time.
Totally agree.
But the question is when. And we, there's a lot to gear up for on doing this. And we've really, not only would we have to be really buttoned up with our current shop and our current operation to the point where we feel we could take the, pieces of it and put it somewhere else and operate it in the same manner. But we also would have to have the right personnel who would either relocate to get that store started or have some type of, oversight and training certainly with the team that we would be bringing on there. Not to mention the design process and the build process and the additional stress on things like, the buying and the inventory. There's a lot to this concept, but it's also maybe the most exciting of all the concepts on the list as well.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about how long it took for us to find this unit alone, right? Not months. I know we found an initial unit downtown, and then we lost that one, and then it took us a little bit to find this one. Like, it's just a long process overall, and I think we just got to dial in a little bit more here. I don't think we're far. I really don't. I think we're doing a lot of things great. Our team's really good, but our team needs to be a little bit bigger in certain areas, and so I think the difficulty with doing that is I think we'd have to make those teams then smaller, because some of those people would have to relocate. Some of those people would be the leaders at the future location, and I think it's something all three of us, you, me, and Ryan, want to do. It's just a matter of when, like you said.
Yeah, it's a matter of when, and it's a matter of where.
Because yeah.
At least when we did the store here, we knew it was going to be in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Now, we didn't know exactly where, but we kind of drew a circle, and we're like, well, it's going to be within a 10-mile or radius of this, right?
Yeah.
In this case, we'd have to decide what city.
Yeah.
And that's a whole.
And I know all three of us are trying to think about that and just imagine that, So it's going to be exciting wherever we do go next. But I think that's something that's probably maybe one of the biggest goals in the back of our minds right now, I'd say, at least for myself. But I think it'd be really exciting to bring this across the country, to more cities and more people in the hobby.
I think it's a great goal. I also think that, as you said, it's there's a lot to it. And there's a lot of things that within these 4 walls that we have today that we got to get perfected before we can do it. So it will happen probably at some point in the future, but not immediately. There's stuff to do. So those were the ideas. Those were the 9 ideas. And the approach that we took to that strategy meeting was we said, okay, we need a method to be able to rank and scorecard these ideas. Because one thing, I've done this type of activity in past businesses before. And when you have a lot of ideas that you're trying to decide between, and they all have their different attributes, they all have their different pluses and minuses and all that type of thing. I think in order to make a smart, well thought out decision, you've got to put first thought into how you're even going to approach the decision in the first place. And in our case, we decided to approach it by putting together a scorecard. And each of those 9 concepts that we just talked about, we scorecarded in 3 general areas. So one general area was, what's the potential of that idea, of each of those 9 ideas? What's the potential? And we looked at that both from the short term and from the long term. What's the short-term potential, and potential in terms of how much revenue and profit can that generate for us? Quite simply, right? Short term, if we were to do any of these things tomorrow, if we decided tomorrow we're going to go live sell from the aisles, or we're going to start a repack, or we're going to start a card show, or we're going to open up another card shop, for example, what is the short-term revenue and profit add to our business by doing that? What is the long-term revenue and profit add? We all scored that on a scale of 1 to 5. Using our own opinion. So you scored it, Ryan scored it, I scored it, with 5 being huge potential and 1 being very little potential. We all independently would write our score down, and then we would say what our scores were. And if all of our scores were, within a point of each other, we just wrote down the score and continued on to the next category to score. But if there was a larger difference between our scores, we would stop and we would talk about why. So if, for example, when we were evaluating, expanding our website with another dealer's inventory, if I said, oh, that's a 5 for short-term revenue potential, that would really ramp it up. And if you said that's a 2, I don't think it's going to do much for our revenue or our bottom line, then we would stop and say, okay, why do you feel that way, Carter? And I would explain why I felt my way. And then oftentimes one of us was seeing something that the other person wasn't seeing or thinking about. And then we would end up adjusting our score in the direction of that, that person. We ended up getting our scores more aligned that way. So we scored based upon the potential, as I just talked about. The second general category that we scored on was, can we do it? And this was the ease and speed of launching the idea. How quickly, if we decided tomorrow that we wanted to do expanding breaking and live selling or monthly subscription service, how easily and quickly could we actually get that off the ground? We scored on that. We also scored on how easy it would be to scale. So, once you get it off the ground, how easy is it to make it a really big revenue generator? And then we also talked about the effectiveness of marketing. Is it something that we could quickly turn customers onto? Or is it something that would take a lot of work and potentially a lot of money to help it build traction in the market? So those 3 things laddered up to the second category of, can we do it? And then the third category was, can we afford it? And that was looking at the financial impact, both short-term and long-term, the expense that we would have to put in, the investment that we would have to put in to get that idea off the ground, and also the resourcing, the time, the management energy and focus that would have to go into it. Something like, for example, starting an additional retail store was scored very low on the, both short-term and long-term in terms of the financial and time commitment, and low meaning it would take a lot of money and it would take a lot of time. So it kind of had a bad score. Whereas something like, could we expand our breaking and live selling? That scored higher because we're already doing breaking and live selling. We already have extra cabana space and we already have extra equipment. So, simply expanding in those areas is just a matter of maybe acquiring some more products and hiring another employee or 2 or something of that nature, which is a lot less capital intensive in the grand
lot.
scheme of things than starting another card store, right?
Yeah.
So that's how we scored things out. So those were the 3 categories. What's the potential? Can we do it? And can we afford it? With kind of subcategories within each. And we scored every single one of those 9 ideas on each of those categories, averaged everything together, and got a total score for each of these ideas. And then that kind of informed our stack rank of which of those ideas we felt like we needed to pursue first. Which I'm not going to tell the audience what won today, because I'm not going to give it away, and we're going to talk about that more in the upcoming months once the idea actually goes to market.
I think you should tell them, and then we should bleep it out.
Right. What did you think, though, about this process? What do you think about kind of the scoring process and approach that we took?
Honestly, like, thinking back to it, like, I think the best part about it is that it took the assumption out of what we thought each other was like thinking, because it gave us the opportunity to talk about it. But then if we all scored it the same, then we're all aligned on it. That's great. But on the things that we were far off, like, okay, great, let's talk about it. And then you brought some stuff to perspective that probably I didn't think of, or Ryan didn't think of, or vice versa. And so it took out the assumptions. And so it made us more aligned in our decision making going forward. So I thought it was really effective, and I think it's very encouraging to know and kind of look at a ranking in a sense and be like, oh, like, man, because there were some things that leveled up on the list that I was like kind of surprised about. I'm not going to get into specifics, but some stuff ended up higher than I thought, and some stuff ended up lower. But it just how it played out based on how we were scoring and how we were talking about things.
Yeah. I found it helpful. Of course, I had run that process before, but like it got conversation. It got conversation focused in the right areas. It got conversation focused on the areas where we weren't all aligned. It caused us to have to talk about those things. And areas where we were aligned, we didn't have to waste as much time talking about it.
It makes it more efficient in a sense, right? I mean, this is, we said we were going to do a day. This ended up being 2 days, right, of a strategic meeting. Yeah. So it took a lot of our time. We're all 3 of us are very busy. That was time away from our teams and doing other things, but it's definitely needed. But as you said, the efficiency of this is important. Yeah. And I think scoring it and kind of skipping over the conversations where we were aligned helped us for sure.
Yeah. I'm curious to hear the audience's thoughts. We went through the 9 ideas just then. I'm curious to just hear what the audience thinks in terms of those ideas. If any of them stand out to the audience, would love to hear that. So certainly let us know in the YouTube comments what you think.
Yeah. Always open to feedback.
Yeah, it's good to get feedback. It's great to get feedback. So
we're listening. I mean, we talked about retail, the retail feedback that we've gotten, and we encourage it and we want it. Yeah. It's something that we're always going to pay attention to and improve upon and adapt from there.
It's why we put ourselves out there, and we open ourselves up for people to give feedback and give thoughts and all that type of thing, and we definitely read it all and consume it all for sure. Speaking of busy, I know you're busy. I'm busy, so we're going to wrap up this episode. But I appreciate you joining me here. This was a good one, and I look forward to being able to, a few months from now, give the audience another update. Next time we get together, we'll probably update everybody on how the holiday season went, and maybe we'll be able to update them on progress with one of the business concepts that we just talked about.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an exciting episode once it happens.
Good. Awesome. All right. Good to see you, Carter. And thank you for watching the show today. And I want to remind you that, of course, these full-length Geoff Wilson shows are available on on YouTube, on the Geoff Wilson Show channel on YouTube, the full-length episodes, but also on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. So make sure you are subscribed everywhere so you can listen to this show on the go. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you soon with our next episode. Take care.